The Galactic Council chamber floated in the void like a massive crystal, reflecting the light of 1,000 distant stars. Inside, representatives from 300 species gathered in the circular assembly hall. The air hummed with translation devices working overtime, converting countless languages into something each species could understand. Ambassador Elena Vasquez stood at the human podium, her hands gripping the edges of the metal stand. She had been Earth's voice for 23 years now. Her hair had gone from black to silver during that time. The stress of representing humanity to a galaxy that barely respected them had aged her faster than the years alone could account for. Honored council members, Elena began, her voice steady despite the anger burning in her chest. I come before you with evidence of systematic genocide. The Kroth Dominion has attacked 17 worlds in the past 2 years. They claim these attacks are accidents or misunderstandings. They are not. She activated the holographic display. Images filled the air above the assembly floor. Burning cities. Dead families. Children who would never grow up. The representatives shifted in their seats. Some looked away. Others whispered to their aides. 1 week ago, the Kroth attacked New Terra. It is a farming colony. No weapons, no military bases, just families growing food to feed the outer colonies. Elena's voice cracked slightly, but she pushed forward. They killed 137 people. The Kroth commander said their navigation system malfunctioned. This is a lie. She pulled up more data, flight paths, communication records, tactical analysis. Everything pointed to a deliberate attack. The Kroth are testing the Council's resolve. They want to see how much they can take before anyone stops them. I am asking you, pleading with you to take action. Invoke the emergency protocols. Send peacekeepers. Do something before more innocent people die. The chamber fell silent. Elena looked around at the alien faces staring back at her. Some showed pity. Others showed annoyance. Most showed nothing at all. The Kroth representative, a massive reptilian creature named Scar, rose from his seat. His scales gleamed under the chamber lights. When he smiled, rows of sharp teeth showed. The human ambassador grows emotional, Scar said, his voice deep and rumbling. Understandable for such a young species, but emotions cloud judgment. Our investigation clearly shows a system malfunction. We have paid reparations to the families. The matter is closed. Reparations? Elena's voice rose. You paid money and think that makes it acceptable. Those were people. Living, breathing people with families and dreams. Ambassador Vasquez, the council chairman interrupted. He was a tall, thin being from the Lumini species. All grace and cold logic. Please control yourself. Emotional outbursts are not productive. Elena took a deep breath. She had played this game for 2 decades. She knew the rules. Stay calm. Present facts. Be diplomatic. But the facts did not matter anymore. The council had already decided. Then let me present this calmly, Elena said, forcing her voice to remain level. The Kroth Dominion is expanding through force. They are violating council law. If you do not act, they will continue. And when they come for your worlds, when your people are the ones dying, who will speak for you? The chairman nodded slowly. Your concern is noted. We will now vote on whether to investigate further or to accept the Kroth explanation and compensation. Elena watched as the votes came in. The display showed the results in real time. She was not surprised as the numbers climbed higher on the side of accepting the Kroth version of events. The Kroth had allies. They had made deals and promises. They had political power that humanity lacked. The final vote was not even close. 247 to accept. 53 to investigate. Humanity's voice meant nothing here. Elena stood in silence for a moment. She thought about all the warnings she had given over the years. All the times she had stood at this podium and told them that humanity was not weak, that they were choosing to follow the rules, that they were holding back their true capabilities because they wanted peace. No one had believed her. They saw humans as clever with machines and good at negotiating trade deals. But militarily, physically, the galaxy saw them as soft, as weak, as a species that talked big but could not back it up. "Very well," Elena said quietly. "The Council has spoken. I want every member here to remember this moment. Remember that humanity came to you with open hands. We followed your rules. We asked for your help. We warned you what we were capable of if pushed too far." She looked directly at Scar. The Croth representative met her gaze with amusement in his eyes. "You have made your choice," Elena continued. Asterisk asterisk now you will see what humans are like when we stop asking for permission, asterisk asterisk. She closed her data pad and walked out of the chamber. The representatives behind her burst into conversation. Some laughed at the dramatic exit. Others discussed whether humanity would actually do anything. Most simply moved on to the next agenda item. Elena did not care. She had done her job. She had tried every diplomatic option. She had given them every chance to do the right thing. Now it was time for someone else to do their job. She walked through the curved corridors of the council station until she reached the human embassy section. Her aide, a young man named David Chen, waited for her outside her office. "It did not go well," he said. It was not a question. "No," Elena replied. "Initiate Protocol Omega. Recall all ambassadors. Contact Earth Defense Command. Tell General Chen the restrictions are lifted." David's face went pale. "Are you certain?" "Once we start this, I am certain," Elena said firmly. "Get it done." David nodded and hurried away. Elena entered her office and sat at her desk. She pulled up a communication terminal and entered a code she had hoped never to use. A code that would reach every human colony, every ship, every military installation. The message was simple. Protocols revoked. Full authorization granted. Asterisk defend ourselves. Defend our allies, asterisk. Show them what we are. She sent it and leaned back in her chair. There would be no going back now. Across human space, the message arrived. On Earth, in an underground facility beneath the mountains of Colorado, General Marcus Chen stood in a command center that had been built 50 years ago when humanity first joined the Galactic Council. The walls were covered with displays showing ship positions, resource stockpiles, and tactical data. Chen was 63 years old. He had fought in the last war before Earth unified. He remembered what humans were capable of when they stopped holding back. He had hoped he would never have to see it again. His communication officer called out, "General, we have a priority Omega message from Ambassador Vasquez." Chen closed his eyes for a moment. Then he opened them and nodded. "Display it." The message appeared on the main screen. Chen read it twice. Then he turned to his staff. "Open the sealed orders. Contact all fleet commanders. Activate the reserve ships. It is time." Around the room, officers moved quickly. They had trained for this scenario for decades. They had hoped it would never come, but they were ready. Deep in the oceans of Earth, massive submarine carriers received the signal. Their hulls opened and warships began to rise. Ships that were supposed to not exist according to Council regulations. On the moon, hidden inside fake mining facilities, more ships powered up. Dreadnoughts 3 times the size of anything humanity had officially registered with the Council. On Mars, on the asteroid bases, on colonies throughout human space, the same scene played out. Weapons that were supposedly banned were loaded. Soldiers who were officially just colonists put on armor and picked up rifles. Pilots climbed into strike craft that could fly circles around anything the Council had ever seen. In orbit around Earth, a communication station broadcast a final message to the Galactic Council. It was simple and direct: you were warned. The Croth Dominion received word of unusual human activity within hours. Commander Scar, fresh from his victory at the Council, laughed when he heard the reports. Let them posture, he told his subordinates. Humans are merchants and engineers, not warriors. If they want to throw a tantrum, we will teach them their place. He ordered 3 of his fleets to the human border. 47 warships total, more than enough to handle whatever the humans might send. The Croth fleet commander, a veteran named Thrak, was more cautious. He had studied humans during his career. Something about them made him nervous. The way they looked at problems, the way they learned, the way they adapted. But orders were orders. Thrak positioned his fleet near the human border and waited. He did not have to wait long. Contact, the sensor officer called out. Multiple human ships entering the sector. Numbers? Thrak asked. 5 ships. 1 large vessel and 4 smaller carriers. Thrak relaxed slightly. 5 ships against 47. This would be over quickly. Open a channel, he ordered. Let me speak to their commander. The view screen activated. A human appeared. He was older, with gray hair and hard eyes. He wore a military uniform that looked functional rather than decorative. I am General Marcus Chen of the Earth Defense Force, the human said. You are ordered to withdraw from this sector immediately. Thrak bared his teeth in what his species considered a smile. I am Commander Thrak of the Croth Dominion. You are outnumbered and outgunned. Surrender your ships and we may allow you to live. Chen's expression did not change. You had your chance for surrender, Commander. That opportunity has expired. The channel closed. Thrak stared at the blank screen for a moment. Then he laughed. Human arrogance is impressive. All ships, attack formation. Disable their vessels, but try to take them intact. The Council will want to see what rules they have been breaking. His fleet moved forward, surrounding the 5 human ships. Standard Croth tactics called for overwhelming force at medium range. Energy weapons would disable shields and engines, then boarding parties would secure the ships. The human vessels did not try to run. Instead, they accelerated directly toward the Croth formation. They are either very brave or very stupid, Thrak muttered. His weapons officer opened fire along with the rest of the fleet. Energy beams lanced through space, striking the human ship's dead center. And the human ships kept coming. Report. Thrak demanded. Their shields are holding. No, wait, they do not appear to be using shields. Their armor is absorbing our fire. That is impossible. Increase power. The Croth fleet poured more energy into their attack. The human ships glowed red-hot from the bombardment. Their hulls should have been vaporized. Instead, outer layers of armor burned away, revealing more armor underneath. The heat dissipated across the hull in patterns that suggested careful engineering. Then, the human ships opened fire. The sound of railguns firing cannot travel through space, but the effect was unmistakable. Tungsten slugs the size of cars launched at 3% of light speed. They crossed the distance between fleets in seconds. The first Croth ship simply exploded. The slug went through the shields like they were not there, punched through the hull, and came out the other side. The ship broke apart from the kinetic energy transfer. Then the missiles launched. Thousands of them. Each smaller than a person, but moving fast and maneuvering independently. The Croth point defense systems tried to shoot them down. They destroyed hundreds, but thousands more got through. Croth ships began dying. Not disabled, dying. Reactors breached, hulls torn open, crew exposed to vacuum. Evasive maneuvers. Thrak shouted. Reform the line. Focus fire. But the human carriers had launched strike craft. Small, 1- or 2-person vessels that moved with impossible agility. They dove through the Kroth formation, firing precisely at weapon systems and engines. Thrak watched in horror as his fleet fell apart. These were not the limited vessels humanity was supposed to have. This was not the defensive posture they were supposed to maintain. This was something else entirely. This was war. Real war. Human war. And the Kroth had no idea how to fight it. The battle lasted 4 hours and 17 minutes. When it ended, 43 Kroth warships were destroyed. 4 more were crippled and captured. The human fleet had taken damage to 2 ships, but both were still operational. Not a single human casualty. Commander Thrak found himself on the bridge of his flagship, now powerless and drifting. Human boarding pods had attached to his hull. He could hear the sound of cutting torches working through his blast doors. His crew looked to him for orders, but what orders could he give? The doors exploded inward. Smoke filled the bridge. Through the haze, armored figures emerged. They were shorter than Kroth warriors, but their armor made them look massive. Each one carried weapons that looked brutal and functional. No decorative elements, no ceremonial designs, just tools built for killing. A human stepped forward and removed their helmet. It was a woman with short dark hair and a scar across her cheek. She looked at Thrak with cold, professional eyes. Commander Thrak, she said in perfect Kroth language. You are now a prisoner of war. Order your crew to stand down. Thrak's pride warred with his survival instinct. Pride lost. He gave the order. The humans moved through his ship with disturbing efficiency. They knew exactly where everything was: bridge, engineering, weapon systems, crew quarters. They had studied Kroth ship designs down to the smallest detail. On the HMS Wellington, General Chen watched the tactical display update. All enemy ships neutralized. All objectives achieved. He allowed himself a small smile. It had been a long time since he commanded in actual combat. The old skills had not faded. Open a broad channel, he ordered. All frequencies. Make sure every ship, station, and sensor array in this sector can hear it. His communication officer nodded. Channel open, sir. Chen looked directly into the camera. He knew this message would reach the Galactic Council within hours. He wanted them to hear it clearly. This is General Marcus Chen of the Earth Defense Force. Today, the Kroth Dominion attacked our vessels and were defeated. This was not a war. This was a border skirmish. A demonstration of capability. The Kroth attacked our civilians at New Terra without provocation. We will respond proportionally. That means we are coming for your worlds, Kroth. Not your civilians. Your military. Your leadership. The ones who gave the orders. You have 1 week to evacuate your homeworld's non-combatants. After that, we are coming. This message ends. The channel closed. Chen turned to his executive officer, a younger man named Rodriguez, who had been practically bouncing with nervous energy throughout the entire battle. Get me a casualty report from the captured ships, Chen ordered. I want to know how many Kroth died and how many survived. And treat the prisoners according to the Geneva Conventions. They are soldiers who followed orders, not war criminals. Sir, the Kroth do not have anything like the Geneva Conventions, Rodriguez pointed out. We do, Chen replied. That matters. Across the galaxy, the battle data reached the Galactic Council station within 6 hours. The initial reports were dismissed as impossible. Energy signatures that large could not come from human ships. Kinetic weapons moving at those speeds should not be possible for a species of humanity's supposed development level. Then the visual recordings arrived. Council intelligence analysts watched the battle footage in stunned silence. They ran it through verification protocols. They checked for tampering or simulation artifacts. The data was real. Chairman Kaluz of the Lamini watched the footage in his private office. He replayed the moment when the first Kroth ship exploded over and over. The tungsten slug had been visible for just a fraction of a second before impact. The Kroth shields had done nothing. He pulled up humanity's registered military assets. 300 defensive corvettes. 20 patrol cruisers. No dreadnoughts. No carriers. No weapons above Class 4 energy output. He compared that to what the footage showed, ships 3 times the size of what was registered. Weapons that made Class 4 look like children's toys. Tactics that suggested centuries of military doctrine refined through actual warfare. Ambassador Vasquez had been telling the truth. Humanity had been holding back. Significantly. Kaluz made a decision. He contacted the Valoran Empire, the Council's military arm. If humanity was going to become a threat, they needed to be contained quickly before they could deploy more of these hidden assets. The Valoran Emperor, Valkyris, received the message in his throne room. He was old for his species, over 400 years. He had commanded fleets in the last 3 major galactic wars. He understood military matters better than most. He watched the battle footage with growing concern. Not fear, Valorans did not fear, but concern. Analysis, he ordered his military advisor, Admiral Kalath. Kalath was younger, barely 200 years old, but brilliant in tactical matters. He studied the footage carefully before responding. The humans fight unlike any species I have studied, Kalath said slowly. They close to ranges we would consider suicidal. Their armor philosophy is reactive and layered rather than shield-based. Their weapons are kinetic rather than energy-based. And their tactics. Go on, Valkyris prompted. They fight as if they have done this before. Many times. Against many different opponents. They anticipated every Kroth maneuver. They exploited every weakness in Kroth doctrine. This was not luck. This was practice. Can we defeat them? The Emperor asked bluntly. Kalath hesitated. Unknown, my Emperor. We would need more data. But I would advise caution. A species does not develop these capabilities overnight. They have been preparing for war for a long time. The question is, how long? And what else have they hidden? On Earth, the news of the battle spread quickly. Reactions were mixed. In some cities, crowds gathered to celebrate. Humanity had finally shown the galaxy what they were capable of. They had defended themselves. They had won. In other cities, protests erupted. Peace activists argued that humanity had abandoned the moral high ground, that they had become the very thing they claimed to oppose. That violence, even in self-defense, was not the answer. General Chen appeared on global broadcast to address the concerns. He stood in his uniform, medals from Earth's last major war displayed on his chest. Behind him was a wall showing the names of everyone killed at New Terra. I understand the concerns about what we have done, Chen began. Many of you are asking if we have become monsters, if we have abandoned our principles. I want to address that directly. He gestured to the names behind him. These people did not choose to be part of a conflict. They were farmers, teachers, children. They were killed because someone decided their lives did not matter. We asked the Galactic Council for justice. We were denied. So we took action. Some say violence is never the answer, Chen continued. I wish that were true. I have spent my entire life studying violence. I have seen what it does to people, to societies, to civilizations. I do not glorify it. I do not enjoy it. But I also will not stand by while innocent people die and their killers face no consequences. He paused, letting his words sink in. We are not attacking civilian targets. We are not committing genocide. We are holding accountable those who make the decisions to harm others. That is not the same as what the Croth did to New Terra. Never forget that distinction. The broadcast ended. Public opinion remained divided, but the military mobilization continued regardless. On Mars, in a facility built into the side of Olympus Mons, scientists worked frantically to prepare more ships for deployment. The production lines had been quiet for decades, building civilian vessels and maintaining the secret military stockpile. Now they roared back to life. Dr. Sarah Kim, the head of the Weapons Development Program, oversaw the activation of systems that had only existed in simulation. The railgun platforms were functioning perfectly. The missile swarms were outperforming projections. The strike craft were everything she had hoped they would be. But she felt sick watching the casualty reports from the battle. She had designed some of those weapons. Her equations had calculated the optimal impact angles for maximum damage. Her simulations had predicted how Croth armor would fail under kinetic stress. She had built tools for killing. And now people were dying because of her work. Her assistant, a young engineer named Marcus, noticed her expression. "Dr. Kim, are you all right?" Sarah shook her head. "I created weapons of war, Marcus. I thought it was theoretical, something we would never use. But we are using them. People are dying." Marcus considered his words carefully. "My grandfather was at New Terra. He was one of the ones who did not make it. Would you prefer we had nothing to defend ourselves with?" Sarah did not have an answer for that. In the Croth capital city of Krothnos, Emperor Vaksh received the news of the fleet destruction with cold fury. He was enormous, even by Croth standards, nearly 3 m tall with scales that had darkened to almost black with age. "Impossible," he hissed. "Humans are weak. They are merchants and engineers, not warriors." His military advisor, General Scar, was one of the few survivors of the battle. He had been on one of the captured ships and was released with Chen's message. He looked different now. The arrogance was gone, replaced by something that looked almost like fear. "They are warriors, my emperor," Scar said quietly. "Perhaps the most dangerous warriors in the galaxy. We attacked them as if they were prey. We were wrong." "Coward!" Vaksh roared. "You lost one battle and now you cringe before them?" "I lost 43 ships in 4 hours, Scar corrected. Against 5 of theirs. They knew our tactics better than we did. They exploited every weakness. And they did it casually, my emperor. As if it were routine. Then we will send more ships," Vaksh decided. "We will crush them with numbers." Scar looked at his emperor with something close to pity. "They gave us a week to evacuate Krothnos. They are coming for us. Not to invade. To punish. I believe them." "Let them come," Vaksh said. "Our orbital defenses have never been breached. 300 defense platforms. 15 battle stations. 400 ships. They would need 10 times the force they have to threaten us." "My emperor," Scar said carefully. "What if they have 10 times the force? What if everything we have seen is just the beginning?" Vaksh did not answer, but somewhere in his ancient mind, doubt began to grow. On the council station, Ambassador Vasquez prepared to leave. She had submitted her formal resignation from the council. Humanity would no longer participate in an organization that protected war criminals. Before she left, she gave one final press conference. Reporters from 300 species crowded into the briefing room. They shouted questions. They demanded answers. They wanted to know if humanity was declaring war on the entire galaxy. Elena raised her hand and silence fell. She still had that presence even now. "Humanity is not at war with the galaxy," she said clearly. "We are at war with those who harm innocents and face no consequences. The Croth attacked our civilians. The Council did nothing. So we acted. That is not aggression. That is justice. What about the Valoran Empire? A reporter called out. They are mobilizing against you. Then they will learn the same lesson the Croth learned, Elena replied. We do not want to fight them. We would prefer peace. But if they come for us, we will defend ourselves. And we will win. How can you be so certain? Another reporter asked. Elena smiled grimly. Because we have been practicing for 10,000 years, we fought each other for millennia before we unified. We know every dirty trick, every tactical doctrine, every strategic principle. We stopped fighting because we chose to, not because we forgot how. The galaxy is about to learn that difference. She left the podium to chaos. Reporters shouted more questions, but she ignored them. Her work here was done. Admiral Kalath watched the press conference from his flagship. He was assembling a fleet to confront humanity. 200 ships, the largest force the Valoran Empire had deployed in a century. He should have felt confident. The Valorans were warriors. They had honor and discipline. They had fought and won countless battles. But watching the human ambassador speak, seeing the certainty in her eyes, Kalath felt something unfamiliar. He felt doubt. In the depths of space, hidden beyond sensor range of any council world, the human reserve fleet waited. 300 ships. Dreadnoughts and carriers that had been built in secret over 5 decades. Crews that had trained in hidden facilities. Weapons that the council had never imagined. They waited for orders. Orders that would soon come. The galaxy was about to learn what humanity had been warning them about for 50 years. They were about to see what happened when humans stopped holding back. The human fleet arrived at Krothnos 7 days after the border battle. General Chen had given them a week to evacuate civilians. Many Kroth had fled. Many more had stayed, either from pride or disbelief that humans would actually attack their homeworld. Emperor Vaksh stood in his command center deep beneath the planetary surface. Around him, displays showed the orbital defense network, 300 automated platforms, each capable of destroying a ship with a single salvo. 15 massive battle stations, each larger than most species' capital ships. And 400 warships, the remaining pride of the Kroth fleet. How many human ships? Vaksh demanded. 73, his sensor officer reported. Mix of dreadnoughts, carriers, and support vessels. Vaksh laughed. It was not a happy sound. 73 against over 700 defensive assets. They are insane. General Scar, standing nearby, was not so confident. He had seen what just 5 human ships could do. 73 was a massive escalation. And if humanity had revealed 5 ships a week ago, how many more did they have? The human fleet stopped at maximum weapons range. They did not advance. They did not attack. They simply broadcast a message. General Chen appeared on every screen in Kroth space. Military channels, civilian broadcasts, emergency networks. Everyone saw his face. People of Krothnos, Chen began. Your emperor ordered an attack on our civilian colony. He killed innocents without cause. We asked for justice. We were denied. So we have come to deliver it ourselves. We do not wish to harm civilians. We have given you time to evacuate. Those who remain by choice are responsible for their own safety. But know this, we are not here to invade. We are not here to conquer. We are here to hold accountable those who ordered the death of our people. Your orbital defenses will fall. Your military will be broken. And your leaders will face justice. The message ended. For a moment, silence filled the Kroth command center. Then Vaksh roared. All stations, open fire. Destroy them. The orbital defense network activated. Energy weapons that could vaporize asteroids focused on the human fleet. The battle stations added their firepower, enough destructive power to glass a continent. The human ships did not move. They did not dodge. They simply endured. Their armor glowed white-hot. Outer layers burned away. But underneath, more armor waited. Reactive plates absorbed energy. Ablative layers dissipated heat. The humans had designed their ships to survive exactly this kind of bombardment. And while the Kroth weapons fired, the humans launched their counterattack. Thousands of drones deployed from the carriers. Each was small, barely larger than a person. Each carried a fusion warhead on a one-way trip. They were not smart weapons by human standards. They did not need to be. There were simply too many of them. The Kroth point defense systems tried to shoot them down. They succeeded, destroying hundreds. But thousands more got through. The drones did not target the stations directly. They targeted shield generators, power relays, sensor arrays, all the critical infrastructure that made the defense network function. Explosions blossomed across the orbital defenses. Small ones at first, then larger as power systems overloaded and reactors went critical. Then the human dreadnoughts opened fire. Railguns sent tungsten slugs downrange at impossible speeds. Each slug hit with the force of a small nuclear weapon. Defense platforms simply ceased to exist when the slugs connected. The battle stations were tougher. Their shields held against the initial barrage. But the humans had learned from the border battle. They did not waste ammunition on shields. Instead, they targeted specific points, weak points in the shield geometry, places where overlapping fields created gaps. It was surgical. Precise. Brutal. General Scar watched the tactical display with growing horror. The defense network was falling apart. Not slowly, not in a drawn-out battle. Rapidly. Systematically. The humans knew exactly what to target and exactly how to destroy it. How? Scar whispered. How do they know our systems so well? The answer came from his intelligence officer. General, we are detecting massive cyber warfare attacks. The humans are inside our networks. They have been for. The officer's face went pale. For years, sir. They have maps of every system, every defensive position, every weak point. Scar felt his blood run cold. The humans had not just been building weapons in secret. They had been studying every potential enemy. Learning their weaknesses. Preparing for the day when diplomacy failed. 6 hours after the battle began, the orbital defense network was shattered. Broken platforms drifted in decaying orbits. Battle stations burned, their crews evacuating in escape pods that the humans allowed to flee unmolested. The warships fared no better. Those that engaged were destroyed. Those that retreated were allowed to leave. The humans were making a statement: fight and die. Run and live. Simple choices. But the real message was in what happened next. Human dropships descended through the atmosphere. They did not land randomly. They landed on military command centers, weapons factories, government bunkers, every location that mattered to the Kroth military and political leadership. The ships deployed Marines. Not thousands, just hundreds. But each Marine was worth dozens of regular soldiers. Their armor enhanced their strength and speed. Their weapons were designed for close combat. Their training was measured in decades of simulated warfare. They moved through Kroth defenses like a knife through paper. In the Imperial Palace, Emperor Vaksh finally understood the situation. The humans were not invading. They were hunting. Specifically hunting him and his government. We need to evacuate, one of his advisors said urgently. We have a ship standing by. Vaksh nodded. Pride meant nothing if he was dead. He and his inner circle rushed to the landing pad where an Imperial shuttle waited. The shuttle launched, accelerating hard toward orbit. For a moment, it seemed they would escape. Then a human strike craft appeared from nowhere. A single missile fired, not at the shuttle's reactor or crew compartment. At the engines. The explosion crippled the shuttle but left the hull intact. It drifted, powerless, unable to flee or fight. A tractor beam locked on, pulling it toward a human ship. Inside the shuttle, Vaksh realized with cold certainty that he had made a terrible mistake. The humans had never intended to let him escape. They had simply wanted to take him alive. On the surface, the human Marines reached their objectives with minimal resistance. Most Kroth soldiers surrendered when they realized they were fighting an enemy that knew their positions better than they did. The humans had hacked every camera, every sensor, every communication channel. There was no hiding. No ambushing. No surprising them. The captured Kroth leadership was brought together in the ruins of the Imperial Palace. Emperor Vaksh, his generals, his advisors, everyone who had been involved in the decision to attack New Terra. General Chen arrived personally. He looked at the assembled Kroth with no hatred in his eyes, just cold determination. "You ordered an attack on civilians," Chen said simply. "You killed innocents. You claimed it was an accident. It was not. You did it to test our resolve. To see if you could take what you wanted without consequence. You are savages," Vaksh spat. "Barbarians who gave you every chance to face justice peacefully." Chen interrupted. "Who warned you? Who asked the galaxy to intervene? You chose this path. Now you walk it." The Kroth leadership was transported off-world. Not to Earth. Not to a human prison. To the ruins of New Terra. The human transport ship landed in what had been the colony's main settlement. The buildings were still burned. The scorch marks still visible. Small memorials had been erected at the spots where people died. The Kroth prisoners were marched through the settlement. Chen walked with them, pointing out specific locations. "Here is where the Martinez family lived. Father, mother, 2 children. All killed when your ships bombed their home. Here is the school. 23 children inside when it was hit. Here is the medical center. The doctors and nurses were treating patients when your attack began. They died trying to save others." Vaksh tried to look away. Chen grabbed his head and forced him to look. "No. You ordered this. You see what you did. Every body. Every life ended. This is your doing. Own it." By the time the walk ended, several of the Kroth officials were openly weeping. Vaksh was not, but something in his eyes had changed. He had seen war from a command center. He had never seen its results up close. The prisoners were then transported to the Galactic Criminal Court, a neutral institution that had been established centuries ago but rarely used. Representatives from dozens of species gathered to observe the trial. Not council species, the oppressed ones. The minor civilizations that had suffered under Kroth aggression. The evidence was overwhelming. Battle recordings, communication intercepts, testimony from Kroth officers. The trial lasted 3 weeks. The verdict was never in doubt. Emperor Vaksh and his inner circle were found guilty of war crimes. The sentence was life imprisonment on a neutral facility, to be carried out by international peacekeepers from non-council species. It was not vengeance. It was justice. And the galaxy watched every moment. But while the trial proceeded, the Galactic Council faced a different crisis. The Valoran Empire had deployed its fleet. 200 ships under Admiral Caliph. They were ordered to intercept human forces and contain the threat. Caliph did not want this fight. He had studied the battle data from Krothnos. The humans had taken on 700 defensive assets and won in 6 hours with minimal casualties. What could 200 ships accomplish? But orders were orders. The Valoran Empire had never backed down from a fight. Their honor demanded they engage. The two fleets met in a region called the Crimson Nebula. It was a cloud of ionized gas left over from an ancient supernova. Sensors did not work well there. Communications were difficult. It was the kind of place where ambushes and surprises could happen. Calith deployed his fleet carefully. Standard Valoran formation, ships in mutually supporting positions, overlapping fields of fire. By-the-book tactics refined over thousands of years of warfare. The human fleet was smaller, just 50 ships. Calith had numerical superiority. He should have felt confident. He did not. The battle began with the Valorans advancing. They expected the humans to retreat or attempt to maneuver for advantage. Instead, the human ships dispersed into the nebula and vanished from sensors. Report. Calith demanded. Unable to track, Admiral. The nebula is interfering with our systems. Calith frowned. The interference was worse than his intelligence had suggested, almost as if something was amplifying it. Then the attacks began. Not from a single direction, from everywhere. Human strike craft appeared out of the nebula, fired, and vanished back into the gas. Missiles came from unexpected angles. Railgun slugs materialized from the clouds with no warning. The Valorans tried to respond, but their sensors could not lock onto targets. They fired blindly into the nebula, hitting nothing. And all the while, human cyber warfare teams were inside Valoran networks, broadcasting false orders, creating phantom sensor contacts, turning the Valorans' own systems against them. Calith realized with growing dread that the humans had chosen this battlefield deliberately. They knew how to fight in the nebula. They had practiced here or in similar environments. Meanwhile, the Valorans were blind and confused. It was not a battle. It was a massacre. After 4 hours, Calith gave the order to retreat. He had lost 27 ships. Another 15 were crippled. The human fleet had suffered damage to 3 vessels, none destroyed. As his remaining ships fled, Calith received a communication. General Chen's face appeared on his screen. Admiral Calith, Chen said. You are a good commander. Your tactics were sound. You did everything right by Valoran doctrine. That is why you lost. Calith said nothing, waiting. Your people fight with honor, Chen continued. Mine fight to win. Honor gets you killed. Adaptation keeps you alive. I'm offering you a choice. Return to your empire and report what happened here. Tell them the truth. Humanity does not want war with Valoria. But if you keep coming, we will keep winning. How many of your people will die before your leaders accept that? You mock our honor, Calith said quietly. No, Chen replied. I respect it. But respect does not mean I will let it kill my people. Go home, Admiral. There is no shame in surviving to fight another day. Especially when that fight does not need to happen. The communication ended. Calith looked at his tactical display. His fleet was broken. His pride was wounded. But his mind was clear. The humans were right. This war did not need to happen. And if it continued, Valoria would lose. Admiral Calith returned to the Valoran homeworld of Valkyr with what remained of his fleet. He expected to be punished for the defeat. Instead, he was summoned to the Imperial Palace to give his report directly to Emperor Thalcarus. The throne room was ancient, its walls carved from a single piece of crystal that had taken 1,000 years to shape. Emperor Thalcarus sat on a throne that had held 400 generations of rulers. His advisors and generals stood in attendance. Calith knelt and presented his report. He did not hide the truth. He described the battle in detail, the human tactics, the technological superiority, the cyber warfare, the complete and total defeat. When he finished, silence filled the hall. You recommend we seek peace, the Emperor said. It was not a question. I recommend we acknowledge reality, my Emperor, Calith replied. The humans are not the species we believed them to be. They have been preparing for war for decades, perhaps centuries. They have studied us. They know our tactics better than we know theirs. And they have shown remarkable restraint. Restraint? One of the generals scoffed. They destroyed 27 of your ships. They could have destroyed my entire fleet, Caliph countered. They did not. They let us retreat. That tells me they do not want this war. Or it tells me they are weak, the general argued. They lack the will to finish what they start. Caliph turned to face the general with respect. That is the thinking that got 27 ships and 4,000 Valorans killed. The humans are not weak. They are disciplined. They fight with purpose. Every shot has a reason. Every tactic has a goal. They destroyed what they needed to destroy and let the rest survive. That is not weakness. That is control. The Emperor considered this. What do you propose? Send an envoy. Not to surrender, not to beg, but to talk. To find out what the humans actually want. I do not believe they want to conquer us. If they did, they would not have let me live to tell you about it. The debate continued for hours. Some counseled war, others counseled caution. In the end, Valkyris made his decision. We will send an envoy. But we will also prepare our defenses. If the humans prove treacherous, we will be ready. On Earth, the aftermath of the battles was being felt in different ways. The military was celebrating. They had proven their capabilities. They had defended humanity's interests and won decisively. But the celebrations were muted. The cost was becoming clear. Sergeant Sarah Kim walked through the medical center at the military base where she was stationed. She had fought in the Battle of Crimson Nebula as a Marine on one of the boarding teams. Her unit had captured a Valoran ship after close combat with its crew. She had killed 7 Valoran soldiers. She remembered each one, their faces, the way they fell, the sounds they made. She could not sleep anymore. Every time she closed her eyes, she was back on that ship. The narrow corridors, the emergency lighting, the smell of burned electronics and blood. A psychologist assigned to her unit tried to help. You were doing your duty. You were defending yourself and your comrades. I know that, Sarah replied. But knowing it does not make it easier. Those soldiers had families. They had lives. And I ended them. They would have killed you if they could have. I know that, too. Sarah looked at her hands. They were steady now. During the fight, they had been steady then too. That was what scared her most, how easy it had been to kill. My grandmother was in the last Earth War before unification. She told me once that the worst part was not the killing, it was how good you got at it. How natural it became. The psychologist did not have a good answer for that. Across the base in the command center, General Chen reviewed casualty reports. The Battle of Crimson Nebula had not been as clean as the earlier fights. 7 human ships had been destroyed. 3,214 personnel killed. Another 800 wounded. Every name on the list was someone's child, someone's parent, someone's friend. Chen had ordered them into battle. He had known some would not come back. That knowledge sat heavy on his shoulders. His aide, Rodriguez, entered with more reports. Sir, we are receiving communications from multiple species. Some are requesting protection. Others are threatening retaliation if we continue our operations. What about the Valorans? Chen asked. They are requesting a diplomatic meeting. Formal envoy to discuss terms of peace. Chen leaned back in his chair. Peace. That is what we wanted from the start. Set up the meeting, but make sure our defenses remain at full readiness. I trust the Valorans to be honorable, but I am not naive. The meeting was arranged on a neutral station in unclaimed space. The Valorian envoy was Admiral Caliph himself, a sign of respect and seriousness. Warriors respected warriors. General Chen met him in a conference room that overlooked the stars. No weapons, no guards, just two military officers who had tried to kill each other and now had to find another way forward. They sat across from each other. For a long moment, neither spoke. "You let me retreat," Caliph finally said. "Why?" "Because killing you would not have achieved my objective," Chen replied. "My objective was to make the Valerian Empire reconsider its actions. A dead admiral becomes a martyr. A living admiral can report the truth. The truth being that you can defeat us. The truth being that we do not want to fight you," Chen corrected. "Yes, we can defeat you. We have proven that. But what would we gain? More dead on both sides. More families mourning. More hatred and anger. We did not start this war. We wanted the Galactic Council to handle the Croth situation. They refused. We acted. That does not mean we want to fight everyone." Caliph studied Chen's face. "You are sincere." "I'm exhausted," Chen said bluntly. "I am 63 years old, Admiral. I have seen more war than I ever wanted to. I unified my planet by fighting people I should have been working with. I swore I would never do it again. And here I am back in a war. The difference is, this time I know exactly what I am doing and why. I am protecting my people. Nothing more, nothing less." "What do you want from Valoria?" Caliph asked. "Stay out of our way. We are not attacking Council species that leave us alone. We are holding accountable those who harm innocents. If Valoria wants to continue serving as the Council's military, that is your choice. But do not make humanity your enemy unless you are prepared to lose." "That is not how our honor works," Caliph said. "We cannot simply abandon our allies." "Then pick better allies," Chen replied. "The Croth committed genocide multiple times. The Council did nothing. Is that an alliance worth dying for?" Caliph had no immediate answer. He had been thinking the same thing during the long trip back to Valkyr. The Valoran Empire prided itself on honor. Where was the honor in defending war criminals? "I will take your words to my emperor," Caliph said. "But I cannot promise what his decision will be." "I am not asking for promises," Chen said. "I am asking for thinking. Real thinking about what this war is about and whether it is worth Valoran blood." The two warriors parted with mutual respect. Neither knew if they would fight each other again. Both hoped they would not have to. Back on Earth, the political situation was evolving. The Commonwealth of Free Worlds was officially formed. It started with humanity and 3 minor species that had been oppressed by council members. Within weeks, 10 more species joined. Then 20. Then 50. Each new member brought the same story: years of being ignored. Decades of exploitation. Centuries of being told they were too small, too weak, too unimportant to matter. Humanity offered them something different. Not protection in exchange for loyalty. Partnership in exchange for mutual defense. A voice in decisions. Actual representation. Former Ambassador Elena Vasquez became the Commonwealth's first Chancellor. She stood before the inaugural assembly and laid out the principles that would guide them. "We are united by choice, not conquest. We defend each other not because we must, but because we choose to. And we will never become what we oppose. The moment we start behaving like the old council, acting like our might gives us the right to dominate, that is the moment we fail." The Commonwealth grew quickly, too quickly for the remaining council species. They saw a rival power forming, a direct challenge to their authority. A faction within the council began planning something drastic. Not a military response. Something worse. In a secret facility buried deep beneath the council's oldest world, ancient technology was activated. It had been left behind by the precursor race that had founded the original galactic civilization 10,000 years ago. A weapon so terrible that its very existence had been classified above every other secret, the Genesis Protocol. It was capable of destabilizing a star, of causing it to go supernova decades or centuries ahead of schedule. It had been built as a last resort against an existential threat. Some council members now believed humanity was exactly that threat. The weapon platform that housed the Genesis Protocol was hidden in a dead system far from any inhabited worlds. It had been dormant for millennia. Now it was being brought online. The activation codes were split between 5 council members. Each had to input their code for the system to function. It was meant to prevent any single individual from using it. But fear and desperation had brought 5 leaders to agree on the unthinkable. Their target, Sol. Earth's star. If they destroyed the star, they would destroy Earth and the heart of humanity's power. The Commonwealth would collapse without its founding species. The moral implications were staggering. Earth had 15 billion people. The entire Sol system, spread across colonies on Mars, Europa, Titan, and dozens of orbital habitats, 20 billion people condemned to die. The 5 council members told themselves it was necessary. That humanity was too dangerous to be allowed to continue. That the deaths of 20 billion was acceptable if it saved trillions. They input their codes. The weapon platform began its activation sequence. It would take 72 hours to fully charge and execute the star destabilization protocol. Humanity had 3 days to live.